Well, the revolution may not be televised, but the Georgia criminal cases against Donald Trump and all of his henchmen and co-conspirators will be. The question is, when? I'm Michael Popok. You're on MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. We got a new order that just came out kind of in the middle of the night. We weren't expecting it, from the Court of Appeals in Georgia, which has indefinitely postponed the oral argument that was scheduled for December 5th about whether Fani Willis should be the prosecutor of the case or not. And I'm going to cover it here on this hot take for Legal AF and the MeidasTouch Network. Just to bring everybody up to speed, we've got an appeal that was filed by Donald Trump and about 8 or 9 other co-conspirators, arguing that Judge McAfee, the trial court judge below, got it wrong when he ruled after an evidentiary hearing that Fani Willis can stay in the case as long as she fired the guy that she used to date who worked on the prosecution with her. She fired that guy, she stayed in the case, and this appeal ensued. Now, we knew the appeal was coming because basically the trial judge invited it. He made comments, kind of gratuitous comments, negative criticisms of Fani Willis, although he kept her in the case, which he questioned her judgment. He said there was an air of mendacity, which is another word for saying he thinks somebody's lying about the relationship in the case. Well, of course, the Trumpers picked it up and decided to file their appeal. And we had full briefing. The oral argument is the last step, usually, in the process before the panel, the appellate panel, in this case, a 3-judge panel, makes their ruling. The order of operation, I'll talk to you now as an appellate lawyer. The order of operation is the party taking the appeal, in this case, the Trumpers, are the appellant. The party who's opposing the appeal is the appellee. The appellant gets 2 briefs, the appellee 1. There's the opening brief by the appellant, along with the record from below, with all the transcripts of the hearing and the evidence and all of that. There is the middle brief, which is the opposition brief by the appellee, and then the appellant who brought the appeal gets the final word in a reply. And that is full briefing. And then the appeals court generally, 90% of the time or more, takes an oral argument. They don't have to. You have to usually ask for oral argument. It has to be granted to you. Sometimes they just rule on the papers, literally just rule on the hard, cold record before them without the need for oral argument. The purpose of oral argument is generally for the 3-judge or 5-judge panel, whatever we're talking about, or 9 judges on the U.S. Supreme Court, to get some questions answered or to communicate with the other people on their panel through the questions they're asking of the advocate, to try to get some consensus or coalesce around a certain position so when they finally write their decision, they know what they're talking about. You know, a lot of these panels don't get assigned until a day or 2 or that day, usually a day or 2, before the case. And the advocates don't know about it sometimes until the morning of who your 3-judge or 5-judge or whatever judge panel is going to be. You know, we're scrambling as advocates. Who's going to be on the panel? How do I orient my arguments based on what I know about these particular judges? The judges get the briefs in advance. Usually they've read them a couple of days in advance. And then they'll start asking questions. And it could be a hot bench, which is what it sounds like. A lot of questions coming at the advocates, one or both, that you get about a minute into your canned presentation, and then you're bombarded with questions, and you have to respond to them, and then pivot and weave your argument into the questions that have been asked in your 5 or 10 or 20 or 30-minute allotment. You have lights in front of you, red lights and green lights to tell you where, usually a timer in front of you. And when the red light comes on, you stop talking unless you're granted more time. That's the oral argument. It could be a quiet bench, and they let you present fully your entire, version of your brief and ask very few questions, and then you just sit down at that point. I've had hot benches I thought were against me, where I've gotten rulings in my favor. I've had cold benches where I thought I got this, and I came home and I didn't win that appeal. So that it's very hard sometimes to tell based on the bench how you're doing. But that's supposed to happen. It's not going to happen now. Support for today's episode comes from iHerb. iHerb offers the best curated selection of wellness products at the best possible value across a variety of categories, such as supplements, sports nutrition, groceries, and beauty. This is your one-stop shop for all your health and wellness needs. They care what's actually inside every bottle that may make up your morning, self-care, or cool-down routines and more. They test and verify to ensure that what you find in every bottle is what's supposed to be there. Their site is super easy to navigate. You can search by category, brand, or ailments you want help with, like circulatory support or digestive support. And then you can further narrow your search by ratings, price, or diet, like vegan or vegetarian. They've really thought of everything to make shopping for these products convenient and easy. iHerb's natural products have become my go-to in my gym bag. My latest find on their website, the Mild by Nature Thickening Shampoo with B-complex and biotin. Just after a hard run and then a steam, using this amazing shampoo is a great way to start my day feeling refreshed and like I did something to give my hair a little TLC. iHerb offers over 50,000 products in a variety of categories, including beauty and bath, baby, and pets. You can trust your products will arrive in first-rate condition because iHerb orders are shipped from climate-controlled fulfillment centers in the U.S. to ensure the quality of their products. And they ship to over 180 countries. Products available at iHerb are sourced directly from the brands or authorized distributors in the U.S. There are no third-party sellers. This is so important when there are companies out there selling fake products and you have no idea what ingredients are in them. iHerb does not allow third-party resellers on its website or mobile apps. You get free shipping in the USA on purchases over $30, and they offer 24/7 customer support if you have questions about your order. Our listeners get 22% off their first order when you use code LEGALAF at iHerb.com/shop/legalaf. Existing customers receive 15% off. That's 22% off your first order at iHerb.com/shop/legalaf and use promo code LEGALAF. Choose iHerb because wellness matters. Now we have no oral argument and no oral argument in sight. And the case is stayed. There's a pin in it. It's on ice. It's trapped in amber, whatever you want to call it, until the appeal is concluded. Now, if they're just going to rule on the papers, frankly, they would have issued an order that said, we are dispensing with oral argument, we will rule on the papers, and we will advise the parties. I mean, you would see an order like that. We didn't see an order like that. If they were going to continue it to another date, they would say, we will be rescheduling it to another date, or here's the date we're rescheduling it to. We didn't get that order either. We got this Oracle of Delphi type order where like magic 8 ball. What do they mean? They're just going to postpone until further notice. So the case is effectively on ice until further notice. Eventually, one of the parties can ask the clerk of the court, what is going on? Is this going to be rescheduled? I'm sure they're making those phone calls now, and we'll report on it. Let's assume sometime in 2025, they hear the appeal. Then through 2025, we're going to have this appellate process because the loser, whatever finally gets ruled on by this 3-judge panel in Atlanta, is going to go up to the Georgia Supreme Court. Now, one thing's for sure. Every one of those co-defendants, from Mark Meadows to Rudy Giuliani to Jeff Clark, they're not going anywhere. They've all tried one way or the other to take their case to federal court on the way to try to get it dismissed by the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court just recently ruled against Mark Meadows and said, effectively, sit down. You're going to stay in state court. You're not going to take your state prosecution to federal court. We don't want to hear from you on this issue. You are a defendant in a criminal case in state court, and that's it. Now, Donald Trump is, of course, a unique situation, having committed the crimes alleged while he was still president and now having been reelected 4 years later. And there is no, just to manage expectations, there's no judge, federal or state, appellate or trial that's going to force Donald Trump to stand for a criminal trial while he is the president of the United States. Just not happening. Under various doctrines, not so much immunity. It's not so much that he's immune, although I think immunity is going to be discussed at length in Georgia, similarly to the federal side. But even if he got through immunity, the whole issue of dragging him back into the case and making him defend himself is opposed by a series of doctrines about the office of the presidency not being impaired or impeded with while he's president. Now, after he gets out, statute of limitations hasn't run. 2029, sure. I'm sure a lot of prosecutors are biding their time. Fani Willis isn't going anywhere. She won re-election on election night as well. Another 4-year term. So she's not going anywhere. The people in Atlanta appreciate her work. We appreciate her work, her hard work, and support her and rallied around her. And, she might be Donald Trump's Javert chasing after him like Les Mis, except he's really guilty. But we'll continue to follow it. We got that new reporting about the order. I've explained it, I think, to you, what's happened and what should happen next. And then we'll follow it up right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. If you like this legal stuff, you're going to love our new channel in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network. We call it, wait for it, Legal AF. Yep, we're that creative. It's at the intersection of law and politics. Go on YouTube and you can find it at Legal AFMTN for MeidasTouch Network. I'm curating that channel. I'm doing a lot of the hot takes. I bring on some other great collaborators from both the Meidas world and outside the Meidas world at the intersection of law and politics, where, as you know, we don't blow smoke or sunshine. And if you like this kind of work, you'll love our podcast, also called Legal AF. Yep, we founded that 4.5 years ago. And if you didn't know why we called it that, well, this kind of story sort of tells you. Join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on MeidasTouch Network for Legal AF, the podcast, and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next Legal AF contribution, somewhere, someplace, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.